Actually, I just started teaching in Oroville, and I was teaching with Cindy Webster, and she invited Chris and I to come to Trinity Church, and we've been coming here ever since.
I had a friend whose daughter attended preschool, and she talked about this really neat church and how the people were friends, and she kept saying, "Why don't you go to my preschool church?" And it just happened to be Trinity. So I did come because she asked me to, and once I got here, when I walked through the door, I felt welcomed, and I felt comfortable. And so I just kept coming back.
Well, back when Harrison was a child, we were struggling at the church we were at. There were no youth, and we were definitely trying to find a spot that had more youth activities for our children. At that time we'd had Allie, and we searched around, and we had some friends that were coming here to Trinity, and we gave it a shot, and actually that was the first church we went to, and it just felt like a good fit at the time, so that's where we ended up landing.
We started returning to TUMC about a year ago, and I feel that worship is a very personal thing as well as a family thing. And my parents are no longer living, and I felt it was very important that we worship with Steve's parents. And I was also invited to join the choir, and I hadn't sung in 20 years, and I was thrilled to be asked, and it was more blessings than I could even imagine. Brian has brought a new experience to my life, as well as Hillebrecht inviting me to come, and all of those reasons are why I'm in TUMC today.
Well, I inherited Methodism from my parents, and thankfully we all inherited our salvation from our forebears. I stayed here because of the support to the community, and I was at home. I felt at home in a church family, and I thought it was a wonderful place to raise kids.
I was looking for a home church when I moved to the area about a year ago, and I attended a bunch. This is where I came because Marianne's family came here, and I really grew attached to the message that was shared, and really touched me, and I felt more welcome here than I had anywhere else. So.
Well, we had always been Methodist since we were married, but it took a couple of personal touches when we moved to Oroville. First was my husband was here for 9 months before we moved up as a family, and a lady who worked where he did invited him to come to a potluck, and he liked that very much and got acquainted with a few people. And then another thing that happened is our son had fallen out of the tree after we lived there for 3 days, and the minister at that time, Reverend Litton, came to the hospital and visited with us and him, and we really appreciated that. So then we started coming to Trinity.
My wife Beth and I joined this church 4 years ago, and I guess the short answer is we were invited. Some close friends of ours invited us. We had been attending a Methodist church in a nearby city for many years, and they invited us to come, and from our first experience at Trinity, we found that this was the home that we wanted to join. It was a complete church, and my definition of that is they offer choir, they offer full range of Sunday schools, they offer full range of youth and programs for children, and they have great facilities that they care for, and they have a dedicated staff that is obviously biblical based. So that's the short answer on why we joined.
I attended Trinity back when I was in high school, and I left here in 1963 to join the Air Force, and 43 years later I came back to the area. I was going to buy a house here in Oroville, but I ended up buying a house in Worcester, but I wanted to come back to the Oroville church. So I came back one afternoon, went into the office, started talking to them, and Linda Francis was still there. And when I said that I used to attend Trinity, she took off running, ran into the back room, and about 5-10 minutes later, come running out, I found him, I found him. She had my Sunday school records from back when I first attended. So, and I came back mainly because this is where my friends were and family and things like that. And I've never regretted it. I've always enjoyed it.
So we knew a lot of people, that's why we mainly came. And then my daughter was coming here because she was in Orville, and my sister was coming here with them. And a lot of friends of ours came, so it was easy to make a decision, and it's the best thing we ever did. So.